As Unitarian Universalists, we believe truth is larger than any one book or way. Religion and science go hand in hand. Integrity requires freedom of conscience. Diversity is something to celebrate. In the struggle for justice, we come alive. Our highest aspiration and calling is love. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever path you are on, you are welcome here.
We light this flame for the art of sacred unknowing, humbled by all that we cannot fathom in this time. We come into the presence of what we do know, perhaps the only thing we can ever know. That love is now and forever the only answer to everything and everyone in every moment.
Welcome to West Shore, the best place to be on a Sunday morning in Cleveland. We have so much good that's going on. Check out the West Shore Weekly in your order of service about events coming up and how you can get involved. Now, let me ask, if you're here for the first or second time and you don't mind people knowing, would you raise a hand? All right, and if you're too bashful to raise your hand, you're also still very welcome here. Now, let's pass the peace and greet each other warmly. The greeting time will end with the sounding of the bowl. I feel so guilty if I forget to do the... Setting the scene, a UU arrives at the gates of heaven where St. Peter is waiting. Uh-oh, here comes a UU. They always choose to go to the discussion group instead of going straight to heaven.
Geez, darn it, I died before West Shore finished its capital campaign. I never got my visit. I really wanted to know how it all turned out, and plus, I had a lot of suggestions to make.
Well, I guess you shouldn't have procrastinated. You should have signed up for this visit thing you missed. Because people just never take into account that they might get hit by a bus or struck by lightning or something.
Yeah, I wanted to say how much I love the choir, but I know how hard it is getting up the stairs, and there are these newfangled elevators that just might work.
Well, you should have signed up for a visit.
And I just saw an ad for a great refrigeration unit for the kitchen I wanted to tell them about.
Well, you should have signed up for a visit.
And then there's this great idea I have for a social justice project.
Well, you should have signed up for a visit.
Man, I am feeling really bad about procrastinating. I was so worried about the money.
So, did you bring it with you?
Bring what?
The money.
You know you can't take it with you. I really goofed up.
What the HE double hockey sticks? I'm sending you back. You have too much unfinished business with West Shore. Be sure to book that visit right away. And better do something with your hair, too. The lightning left it a little singed. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
What we won't do for this church, right? Generally speaking, I do not consider myself to be a superstitious person. I have always been very pragmatic, looking for rational reasons before subscribing to any belief. As much as many of the things that I do might be thought of as superstitious, I can assure you they are not. Take that thing about avoiding stepping on cracks when you're a child. I have never met a mother whose back was broken due to the careless walking of her child. As a child, however, I did take long strides walking down the sidewalk. While it might have looked like I was trying to avoid the cracks, I was really just hopscotching my way down the road. And walking under a ladder, well, I do avoid that, but primarily because if I'm going to get paint on me, I prefer to have put it there myself. Therefore, it makes sense not to walk under a ladder. Open an umbrella in the house, I avoid that at all costs. But for me, it's not a precursor to bad luck. It's just acknowledging that I am a klutz. I'm almost certain to knock over something precious if I'm holding an open umbrella indoors. And I don't have any bones to pick with black cats. They didn't choose to be black in the first place, and if they cross my path, well, you gotta go where you gotta go, right? I just try not to go where they're going, because who knows? I know people who do sports have a lot of little rituals they believe bring them luck on the playing field. They have special jerseys, favorite pairs of socks, and certain meals that they eat before an event. My golf buddy Fran and I are not like that at all, although we have noticed that if we eat peanut butter and jelly on toast before we play, our drives definitely go further. Also, all golfers have their waggle. This is some private ritual they perform before hitting the ball. Most people never leave their waggle out, which I would call superstition. I just know that if I don't flex my knees once, and only once, as I address the ball, chances are I'm going to do one of the 196 parts of a golf swing wrong and have a bad shot. That's not because I'm superstitious, it's just because I have to loosen up my knees. I also have a preference for Shricks-On golf balls. They give me more confidence. Plus, I really just love saying the word Shricks-On. Although when you think about it, how many real differences are there in a way a golf ball can be manufactured? Seeking rational answers for everything does complicate my spiritual life. I just saw the movie Odyssey, which is filled with myths, magic, and what seemed to me to be a lot of superstition, such as the belief in multiple gods, Zeus, Poseidon, Athena. The Greeks believed these gods controlled their lives, and that's the problem that I have with believing in even one god. The evidence tells me there's no way God is controlling our lives. So I choose to believe that there may be an uncaused causer, but that entity does not have control over our little lives. I do, however, kind of like the idea of karma, and I say a prayer once in a while. I mean, I like to cover all the bases just in case. Like when I spill salt, I always pick up a pinch and throw it over my shoulder, but I'm sweeping anyway, might as well sweep behind as in front. So no, I am not superstitious, I'm just practical, and that's what works for me, knock on wood.
And now all are welcome to come forward to share from the heart in our community of ritual for all that is our lives. These are the joys and sorrows of our hearts, which, in Reverend McCarr's absence, will be shared with Kathy Strouser, head of our pastoral care team, and held with care until Reverend McCarr's return. I am not superstitious. I live my life by facts and reason and logic and science. But I do have a few superstitions that I embrace fully. You cannot talk me out of them because they are part of my lived experience. Here are my top 5 superstitions. Let's start simple. I don't write in red ink. If I write in red ink, it will turn out that what I wrote was somehow a mistake. No red ink. 2, my wife Dawn is not allowed to come into a room with me when I'm watching the Cleveland Browns or the Ohio State Buckeyes football games on TV. Because as soon as she steps into the room, something bad will happen to my favorite team. The quarterback will throw an interception, the running back will fumble the ball, the defense will give up an easy touchdown. No wife in the room while I'm watching football. Number 3, never photograph my car. My father's 1957 Chevy, his 1973 Dodge Dart, and my 1973 Chevy Impala were all photographed, and all were wrecked in car accidents. No other cars of my father, mother, brother, or mine were photographed, and no others were wrecked. No taking photographs of my car. As a corollary to that, this is number 4, for a long time I kept a few shards of the broken glass from my wrecked 73 Chevy and put it under the floor mats of my next 2 cars to be a lucky charm to ward off future accidents. It worked. Number 5, when I think a big, important, good thing might happen for me, I will not talk about it to anyone who doesn't need to know about it. It's kind of like if you make a wish and then tell what you wish for, it won't come true. This is based on my lived experience. When I was single and dating, if I told friends that I met a new woman and really liked her a lot, that guaranteed the woman would never go on another date with me. When I was job hunting, if I told friends about a job interview, that would guarantee I did not get the job. If I was in a competition like storytelling or an audition, if I told friends about how much confidence I had in winning, that guaranteed I would not win. But when I started keeping all this stuff a secret, I did pretty well. Yeah, yes. She was a tightly kept secret. But now I brag about her every chance I get. Anyway, so those are my top 5 superstitions. You may scoff, they may not be at all true for you. Maybe you write everything in red ink and it turns out okay. But they're true for me, they're mine, and I'm not letting go of them. And I'm not the only person who recognizes the fallacy of superstitions, yet still embraces some of them. According to psychologist Dr. Susan Albers of the Cleveland Clinic, superstitions are beliefs or rituals that link specific actions, objects, or events to good or bad luck, like wishing on a shooting star, avoiding the number 13, or wearing a certain t-shirt whenever your favorite team plays. Dr. Albers says, superstitions were created to help our brains feel more in control. And even if we know they aren't real, we still often act as if they are. The American Psychological Association says that when it comes to superstitions, People can recognize in the moment that their belief does not make sense, but act on it nonetheless. That's one dichotomy of superstition. People recognize superstitions aren't true, but they choose to behave as though they are true. The dichotomy is science versus faith, science versus belief. But for Unitarian Universalists, there is another dichotomy of superstition. Science versus acceptance of people who believe in superstitions, or science versus knowing that science is fallible, or science versus accepting people who are fallible. What the heck do I mean by all of that? Here's what I mean. Every Sunday for a while now, Reverend Anthony has opened the service with these words. I spoke them today too. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe truth is larger than any one book or way. Religion and science go hand in hand. That sounds like UUs are called to make room for more than one book or way, if not in our own thinking, that at least our acceptance of others who follow a different book or way. That also sounds like UUs are called to make room, not just for what can be proved by science, but also to accept some things that science can't explain, like many religious beliefs. Maybe we are even called to accept some things that science rejects. I'm sure most of us proudly embrace science and facts and critical thinking, but members of this congregation, and probably every UU congregation, are in covenant with each other to be respectful of each other's beliefs, even when those beliefs are less grounded in logic and science and more grounded in faith, spirit, questions, and wonder. We are in covenant to honor each other's lived experience and worldview. Chapter 2. Why do people believe in superstitions? There are a lot of common superstitions. Blow out birthday candles and make a wish. Don't tell anybody about the wish or it won't come true. Knocking on wood to drive away evil spirits. Bad luck from a black cat crossing your path or breaking a mirror. Good luck from a horseshoe or a rabbit's foot. For today's talk, I'm not concerned with these common superstitions. I'm also not going to talk about why people believe in hoaxes or conspiracy theories. I am talking today about superstitions that claim a cause and effect relationship, even though that cause-effect relationship is not adequately supported by logic or science. So why do people believe in superstitions? Michael Shermer, who has made a career out of being a professional skeptic, wrote a book called Why People Believe Weird Things. In this book, Shermer explains why people believe in superstitions. What I'm about to read is mostly a Michael Shermer quote, but paraphrased by me a bit. Humans are pattern-seeking animals. We search for meaning in a complex world. But we are also storytelling animals, and for thousands of years, our myths and religions have told us stories of meaningful patterns, of supernatural beings and mystical forces. One of the reasons why humans continue thinking magically is that magical thinking is what we did for 200,000 years. It's how we've evolved. In contrast, we've only thought in the scientific way for a few hundred years, maybe a few thousand. Shermer continues, we evolved to see patterns and cause and effect relationships. Those who noticed patterns, such as, standing upwind of game animals is bad for the hunt, or cow manure is good for the crops. Those are the ones who thrived and produced the most offspring. We are their descendants. The problem with finding patterns is figuring out which ones are meaningful and which ones are not. Unfortunately, our brains are not always good at telling the difference between a meaningful pattern and one that is not. The reason is that discovering a meaningless pattern usually does no harm. We can make two kinds of mistakes: believing in a falsehood, and rejecting the truth. If the mistakes don't harm us, they persist. We can also get it right two ways: rejecting a falsehood and believing a truth. Here's the thing: we need to reject some things and believe other things, and we only get some things right if we also risk making some mistakes. As they say in hockey games, you miss all of the shots you don't take. Schirmer concludes that we need to engage the creativity associated with magical thinking and superstitions in order to discover truths using critical thinking and pattern finding. Magical thinking and critical thinking are so tightly connected that they cannot be separated. That's why we believe in superstitions. Chapter 3. Why should we care about superstition? Why should we care? Well, we probably shouldn't care about a lucky rabbit's foot or an unlucky black cat crossing our path. But we should care about the potential benefits and harms of superstitions. There can be benefits to believing in superstitions. Going back to Dr. Susan Albers of the Cleveland Clinic, she says, superstitions may help relieve anxiety. Superstitions can be positive for your mental health when they help make you feel less anxious. You might rub a rabbit's foot to feel a little bit calmer. Superstitions may boost confidence. For example, athletes' superstitious behavior may help them feel more in control and self-assured when they compete. Donna on the golf course. Superstitions can connect you to your culture. That's the third one. They can be a part of shared traditions that help you feel connected to your culture, religion, or heritage. For example, in the Jewish faith, eating apples and honey is said to bring a sweet new year. And in Indian culture, hanging lemon and green chilies at the entrance to your home is said to keep bad luck away. Even if you don't believe in these superstitions, participating in these practices may feel comforting and identity affirming. We should also care about superstition when it causes us or people we love to make poor decisions. We should especially care about superstitions when they cause us to make poor decisions about medicine or health. Theodore Schick Jr. talks about this in his book, How to Think About Weird Things: Critical Thinking for a New Age. Schick invites us to consider these medical claims. Your mind can cure cancer. Therapeutic touch can heal the body. Acupuncture can alleviate chronic pain. Homeopathic remedies are effective against influenza and asthma. Vitamin E supplements can dissolve breast lumps. Herbs can fight AIDS. Which of these claims are true? Every one of them has been advocated and promoted, but just because they sound extraordinary or even bizarre doesn't mean they're false. Maybe your mind can shrink tumors. Maybe it can't. If you believe or disbelieve any of these claims, what are your reasons? One more quote from Michael Shermer. The tension in dealing with weird things is between being so skeptical that revolutionary good ideas pass you by and being so open-minded that flim-flam artists take you in. Balance can be found by answering a few basic questions. What is the quality of the evidence for the claim? What are the background and credentials of the person making the claim? Does the thing work as claimed? Switching back to Schick's discussion of medical superstition, people can have emotional motivations for believing a claim about an alternative medical treatment. They may fear the illness. They may fear the side effects of the mainstream medical treatment. They may be moved by the appeal of sales pitches or promises of relief. They may mistrust mainstream physicians. I can identify with these types of motivations. In some cases, I think surgeons can be way too eager to perform surgery. Years ago, I had a shoulder injury, and I went to see an orthopedic surgeon. The surgeon said he could do surgery on my shoulder. It would be very painful. My arm would be in a sling for 3 months, and I would need somebody to help me dress for 3 months. I asked him, "What if I don't do the surgery?" He said, "Your shoulder will heal on its own in 18 months. I chose the 18 months. More recently, a sleep specialist prescribed one of the sleep aids you see on TV with the possibility of horrific side effects. Or I could just try some mental relaxation techniques. I filled the prescription, but I haven't opened the bottle yet 2 months later." Let's get back to Schick and his discussion of medical superstition. He says that beyond emotional reasons, people may have other seemingly rational reasons for believing an alternative treatment will work. I tried it and it worked. Somebody else tried it and it worked. Dr. X says it works. Dr. X's observations of several patients shows that it works. An ancient practice or folklore shows that it works. One scientific study shows that it works. And maybe the alternative treatment does work. But Schick's book goes on for 30 pages to explain why these seemingly rational reasons aren't enough proof that the treatment works as claimed. Here are some reasons why the proof isn't enough. The treatment might have had no effect. Some illnesses just improve on their own. 18 months in the shoulder. The treatment might have had the placebo effect. Even placebos work 30% of the time. There may be overlooked causes for why the illnesses improved. There may have been a change in diet, a change in exercise, change in environment, change in daily routine, or a change in emotional stress. The doctors claim that the treatment worked may be based on a small number of cases or based on uncontrolled, unscientific experiments. The doctor might not have the claimed expertise or may even be a quack or a snake oil salesman. The folk remedy or traditional remedy might work, but without controlled experiments, who knows? A scientific study may seem to show that a treatment worked, but the study may be flawed. Sometimes scientific studies have conflicting results. So why should you care about medical superstitions? When it comes to medical treatments, choosing an alternative treatment might be beneficial, or it might be harmless, or it could distract and delay a person from getting a more proven medical treatment that they need. Chapter 4. Is belief more powerful than science? Last year, I preached a sermon about how belief creates reality. I talked about how there are some things that only exist if the human collective believes in them. Things like duty, mercy, and justice. If not enough people believe in duty, mercy, and justice, our society won't have them. If people don't believe in the value of paper currency will have no value. If not enough people believe in democracy, our society won't have a democracy. Belief creates reality. Today, I have a follow-on question. Is belief more powerful than science? Belief certainly has some advantages over science. Belief is easy. Belief is inexpensive. Belief usually costs nothing at all. Belief is fast. The only proof that belief needs is, it's true for me, it should be true for you too. Belief is infallible. Belief does not believe that belief gets it wrong. In contrast, science is hard. Science is expensive. Science takes a long time, years, decades, centuries. Science is fallible. Science is humble enough to admit that sometimes science gets it wrong. The main thing that may make belief more powerful than science is this. Once people have a belief, they tend to deny evidence that conflicts with their belief. This is not a recent discovery. Several great minds from the past have observed it. Sir Francis Bacon wrote this in the 1600s. The human understanding, when it has once adopted an opinion, draws all things else to support and agree with it. And though there be a greater number and weight of instances to be found on the other side, yet these it either neglects and despises, or else by some distinction sets aside and rejects, in order that by this great and pernicious predetermination the authority of its former conclusion may remain inviolate. You can tell how smart Bacon must have been by how hard it is to understand that quotation. In short, he said that once people have a belief, they ignore evidence that refutes the belief. What was observed by Bacon in the 1600s was observed again in the 1900s. Max Planck, who won the 1918 Nobel Prize in Physics, remarked, "A new scientific truth does not triumph by convincing its opponents and making them see the light, but rather because its opponents eventually die, and a new generation grows up that is familiar with it." In short, old scientists need to die off before the theories of the new scientists are accepted. Mark Twain put it more simply, "When the human race has once acquired a superstition, nothing short of death is ever to likely remove it." Book author Theodore Schick concludes, "Reluctance to change one's views in the face of contrary evidence can be found in all walks of life, from doctors who refuse to change their diagnoses to scientists who refuse to give up their theories." Do you hear this? This is not ignorant people doubting experts. This is scientists doubting science and doctors doubting medicine. One of the problems is called confirmation bias, which means that we have a tendency to look for and recognize evidence that confirms our existing views, and we tend to ignore and misinterpret evidence that conflicts with our existing views. Confirmation bias. That's why some people will always believe the 2020 election was rigged, that COVID was a hoax, that the Earth is flat, and the Apollo moon landing was staged in a Hollywood studio. They will dismiss evidence that conflicts with their existing views. Belief may, in fact, be more powerful than science. Chapter 5. What would Spinoza tell us? In that last paragraph, I explained confirmation bias by launching a relatively unprovoked attack on people who believe that the Earth is flat and some other people who deny hard evidence. If Spinoza, a 17th century Dutch philosopher, heard me say such things, I think he would admonish me. That's because Spinoza said this: "I have made a ceaseless effort not to ridicule, not to bewail, not to scorn human actions, but to understand them." Let me repeat that. I have made a ceaseless effort not to ridicule, not to bewail, not to scorn human actions, but to understand them. The website where I found that quote offered an interesting analysis, but no credit is given to its author. I will paraphrase what they said. With those words, Spinoza is picking a fight with those who enjoy making a mockery of others' beliefs and who enjoy the moral sugar rush of contempt. Spinoza's three words, ridicule, bewail, scorn, name three shortcuts for dealing with other people. Ridicule lets you feel smarter. Bewailing lets you feel sensitive. Scorn lets you feel righteous. All three are ways of not understanding the other person. Spinoza frames understanding as an achievement, a ceaseless effort. Spinoza asserts that you are being lazy if you dismiss their beliefs as ridiculous or sinful or stupid, or that you don't have to understand the basis of their positions. Spinoza knows that humans act from causes, desires, fears, constraints, not from cartoonish wickedness. Understanding people whose views you find contrary or even nonsensical is a means towards diagnosis. Seeking to understand them causes you to see why a person did what they did, how a system incentivized them, what passions drove them. The quote calls for thoughtful attention to people we disagree with, rather than an easier leap to condemnation. Chapter 6, tying it all together. Superstition is based on the human survival trait of pattern recognition. Superstitions come from humans trying to make sense of a complex world and to manage uncertainty. Superstitions are micro-rituals that convert uncertainty into small, repeatable acts to reduce anxiety. As you use, we are called to honor the emotional truth behind the superstitions, recognizing that superstitions give comfort. Superstitions are not just silly beliefs, they are functional cultural tools that meet real human needs. Our task as you use is not simply to debunk, but to translate those human needs into practices consistent with our values. We are called to employ a compassionate curiosity, to try to understand the beliefs of others, and to extend an invitation to apply critical thinking. As you use, we are called to accept that truth is larger than any one book or way, and to accept that science and religion go hand in hand. Amen. UU minister Daniel Harper wrote this under the title of Magical Thinking. Unitarian Universalists tend to hold the irrational belief that human beings are predominantly rational. Unitarian Universalists also tend to have faith in scientific insight, yet scientific investigations in the fields of psychology, neuroscience, sociology, cognitive science, and more reveal that human beings are not predominantly rational beings. This being the case, the belief that a person can conduct their life on a rational basis is an example of magical thinking. End quote. My conclusion: belief is more powerful than science. Knock on wood.
We extinguish this flame,
but not the light of truth, warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we are together again. Oops.